IPAC's, sorry. I just want to welcome you all to IPAC's Truth and Reconciliation During a Pandemic. We're looking at challenges and opportunities. And before we would begin, I would like to welcome Lori Thompson to do our prayer and acknowledgements, please and thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Lori. Thank you.
All right. How bonjour. I know Megasuba Pamanatis Quell, my Gando Dum Shugobanasi Dum Mama Minogi Zibi Dunji. Apachicha Migwech for inviting me today. And of course, we're nothing without our land, the land that we walk with, live with, and work with. And it's always important to acknowledge that, because without that land under our feet, we don't get to journey anywhere. And in terms of the land that we're all sitting on, especially when you're talking about things like reconciliation and talking about something like a global pandemic, it's really important to think about what it is you're acknowledging, because we're on Turtle Island, and I can only speak from myself and from what's been passed down to me. And we're on Mama Ki, on Mother Earth, the mother that takes care of us, all of us. And in terms of Turtle Island, there's a whole story that goes with that, and how Turtle Island came to be, and how Nanabush and the animals looked after us in order for us to continue on with our story of our Minugamadazi win. So when we acknowledge the land, we're acknowledging all of these things, all of creation. And in terms of reconciliation, it's good to acknowledge those treaty territories that, you know, that our ancestors signed within, but those are colonial constructs, those treaty geographical lines. And Turtle Island is all connected, and that's the way that we have to decolonize ourselves, is to relearn that we are all still connected in this great web of life, and that the segregation needs to stop, especially with this pandemic. This pandemic knows no boundaries. This pandemic knows no geography. So with the land acknowledgement, I acknowledge Mama Aki, I acknowledge the Nibi, and I acknowledge Mikanak Island. And of course, in terms of where we're all sitting in the territories that we're all sitting in, the lands that we're all sitting in, and the way that the tribes or nations recognize those lands that all of you are placed on today. So I say Chimigwech for the land today. And in terms of coming together to talk about something like reconciliation, and to talk about the pandemic and all the helping that all of us are doing, because we're all helpers in what we do. We're all Ushkabes, and it's been very challenging. It still is very challenging, and many of us have lost loved ones. Many of us have people in our lives that are healing, or some of you might be even isolating, and there's a lot of uncertainty with what's going on. And it was already challenging before the pandemic, because we've had things like the MMIWG report come forward with 213 recommendations. You have the TRC coming through with all of those things in terms of how much work we need to do to reconcile what we've been through, what our journey has been like. And when that word reconciliation, I encourage all of you to look at it. It's an English word, and it means more of, the context that it has is more of a toleration of one another. But what we need is a respect of one another, and that kindness and that diversity, recognize all of these beautiful things with who we are as human beings, but we also live with all of creation, and to reconcile with all of creation. We need to respect that water. We need to respect the land. We need to respect all the animals, the mushkaki, the medicines, all of those things. So I'll leave that with you, and I'll start this prayer for this sort of prayer for this asema, this tobacco, this first law that's been passed to us when we want to offer something or we want to ask for something, for that, for this good prayer and this good gathering that you're having. How bojo kishimanatu. Chimigwachwe nungum. Chimigwachwe bimadaziwin. Chimigwachwe minu bimadaziwin. We give you many thanks for this breath of life that we're all getting to live today. And we give thanks for all of those that will finish their breath of life today. Because with life comes death, and with our journey, we've had a lot of life and death and transition, and we're transitioning again. And especially today, we acknowledge and we give a special thank you, a courageous thank you to those little ones that are coming up from the ground, that had gone to residential school and that are teaching us so much. There's more than 215 now that have been found, and we thank them and we ask them to keep on going though, and we'll learn from the things that we need to learn from with that entire process that's in front of us, especially with this reconciliation. We all have somebody who's attended residential school or have attended residential school ourselves, Kishimanatu, good grandmothers and good grandfathers. And now that we have this sickness that we're trying to manage on top of all of these other layers of colonial impact, and learning how to live with each other like we were supposed to peacefully coexist back when our ancestors were trying to negotiate treaties and entering into agreements on our behalf. So we bring all of this to our tables, to the in viewing each other today and sharing our good words. And we ask for that good guidance so that we speak from our hearts and we speak in that good way, and that those good solutions may come forward through us because of the helpers that we are. And so that we also acknowledge that we need a lot of self-care in the helping that we do, Kishimanatu, good grandmothers and good grandfathers. We say Chimigwach for all of these beautiful things that we have. Although we've been through the journey we've been through, and we're in the journey that we're in now, life is still so beautiful. There's just so many gifts that there are to see and hear and feel and touch with our mind, body, and our spirit and our emotions. Kishimanatu. Apachichimigwach. How? So I thank you for allowing me to be here in the way that I've been here today. And I wish you a very awesome, beautiful meeting, and I will be listening. So Chimigwech.
Thank you, Kachimegwech, so much, Lori. Glad you're here. Thank you so much. So before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our panelists. And I'm just going to go in order of appearance on my screen, if you don't mind, folks. And I'd like to begin with Diane Redsky. Diane is a First Nations woman who has long worked to address the myriad of issues facing Winnipeg Indigenous community in all areas of health, justice, education, and social services. She has served in both a professional and volunteer capacity with local, national, and international agencies, and has become a strong advocate for Indigenous children's and women's issues. Through her leadership in several Indigenous-led community-based organizations, she has helped to create numerous innovative programs that have helped build healthy communities through promoting the growth and development of the urban Indigenous community, particularly the safety, protection, and well-being of women and girls, and ending the sex trafficking. Diane is currently the executive director of the Mawi Itata Center. Normally we call it Mawi, and it's in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Mawi, translated from Ojibwe, means we all work together to help one another. It is a community-based, community-led, Indigenous-driven family resource center that is the leader in community-based care for Indigenous children, youth, and families in Winnipeg. She has been acknowledged through the Order of Manitoba, the YMCA WCA Women of Distinction Award, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal, Leadership and Innovator Visionary Award by Joyce Smith Foundation, and Governor General Awards in commemoration of the Persons Case, Senate of Canada Medal, and Rotary Paul Harris. And she is with the Mawi Itata Center. Well, Diane, I didn't realize you were that young when you started. Thank you so much. I'd like to now go to Kendell Joyner, and I will not try to pronounce his spirit name as I do not speak his language, but he is an American-born proud member of the Northern Cheyenne Nation located in Southeast Montana. The values of community, unity, and the common good are centerpiece lessons from his tribe and culture that he carries forward in his current role as the executive director of the Native Clan Organization. The Native Clan Organization is an Indigenous nonprofit that takes a culturally centered approach when working with those reintegrating into their communities or starting new lives after contact with the justice system. Kendell uses his role to assist his community in building a more balanced and empathetic world. He holds multiple undergraduate degrees in criminal justice and corrections, possesses a Master of Public Administration, and proudly served in the United States Army Reserves. And he is with the Native Clan Organization. Thank you, Kendell. Next, we have Dr. Laara Fitznor, who retired December 2018, and she is now a senior scholar of the Faculty of Education with the University of Manitoba, and she's from Woboden, Manitoba. She is a member of the Nissequoiastic Cree Nation. She pursued her dream of a university education once she learned that with a degree, she was in a position to challenge and counter acts of oppression while advancing Aboriginal Indigenous knowledges, perspectives, histories, experiences, spiritualities, and realities through her career. Laara teaches Aboriginal education and cross-cultural education in the Faculty of Education at the University of Manitoba. She is also the co-chair of the annual Aboriginal Education Research Forum, Shawnee Dagasowin Program Committee. In 2021 is the 16th annual forum, and Laara Fitznor is one of the keynoters, and she is with the Aboriginal Educators Research Forum. Thank you, Laara. Next, we have Annetta Armstrong, and she is from the Nissequoiastic Cree Nation. She is the executive director of the Indigenous Women's Healing Center. Throughout her career, she has remained active in advocating for the residents of Winnipeg's North End and volunteering on various boards and committees. She has over 20 years of management experience at prominent community organizations, including BUILD, Mawi Itata Center, and Oyata Tipi. Annetta is also a longtime board member of the Median Credit Union, and she is with the Indigenous Women's Healing Center. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from a small Métis farming and fishing community of Kennesaw, Manitoba. I currently live here. I am of Ojibwe Cree and Scottish descent. I have a Bachelor of Arts from Brandon University. And most of my career has been working in community development and facilitating workshops with First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and non-Indigenous groups. I have designed, developed, facilitated Indigenous cultural workshops for numerous corporations, community organizations, and various police services, among others. I am a registered professional trainer with the Institute of Professional Management, and I help Indigenous organizations with strategy, planning, team building, respectful workplace, lateral violence, and psychogeometrics. My career has covered public health, Indigenous elders organizations, the agriculture industry. I was an instructor out of Assiniboine Community College, and I too started when I was very young, Diane. I currently volunteer with my local in the Northwest region, the Manitoba House Local. And I have artwork all over the world. And in my spare time, I actually enjoy gardening, landscaping my lakefront property, and riding my 2002 Harley Davidson Fat Boy. And it's beautiful weather, and I really try to get to that as much as I can. So thank you all very much for joining us. And with that, I think we'll start to begin. But before we do that, I would like to let you know just some things about Indigenous peoples and all Canadians and how we're experiencing a very important time in Canadian history. And The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, they completed a very historic work in accurate records of Canada's history of the Indian residential school, and they released the 94 calls to actions. So when we look at Canadians from diverse backgrounds, we recognize the importance of reconciling the relationship between Indigenous peoples and all Canadians. Now, the TRC, their closing message was very clear and very consistent. They said it is critical that the national dialogue on reconciliation continue, and each person has an important part to play. It is important to bring diverse participants together in a safe environment that allows for meaningful dialogue and relationship building. So reconciliation activities can provide an opportunity for sharing stories of resilience, gaining a greater understanding of our shared history, and exploring pathways to reconciliation, including the development of concrete action plans. It's very important to be inclusive, respectful, and have safe environments for all participants to speak, to be heard, and to hold space for their fellow participants. So, according to Reconciliation Canada, to reconcile is to weave a stronger and more vibrant social fabric based on the unique strengths of Indigenous peoples and all Canadians. So with that, you folks, I just wanted to share that. I thought it was quite powerful, and I'd like to begin. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is have our panel speakers discuss some of the challenges they may have encountered throughout their careers, personally, privately, professionally, as well as looking at opportunities and maybe some good practices they've seen maybe in dealing with this. And I have no exact who to call on first, but I would let anyone begin to just explain some of the challenges they may have encountered. And we have Annetta Armstrong, Diane, Redsky, Laara, Fitznor, and Kendell Joyner. So whichever one would like to jump in first. I'll pick you. What's that saying? I'll voluntold you.
Sounds good.
I can go from the right of my screen. Laara, if you would like to maybe
Sure.
start, if you don't mind, just some of the, like I said, challenges.
I never mind speaking.
Thank you.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you so much to Lori for the beautiful opening and her commentary. You stole my words, Lori, so I have nothing to say. Just kidding. It was just, of course, all of those were in my forward in my thinking about what we need to think about every day and be mindful about. And thank you for listening to us, those amazing peoples that you've got, that are going to be speaking. I thought, I'm always amazed at how much work we actually do when we get involved and start doing the work that we do, because so much more is given to us, and we pick up the task, we hold up the task, and we move it forward in the best way that we can. And I think just moving into even the whole idea of what's happened with the pandemic, there's so many shifting narratives, shifting voices, shifting dialogues, and the way we communicate with each other. Because I think that was one of the biggest things for me, is moving from, talking to people on cell phones. And I no longer even have an old house phone, because at some point I decided a few years ago, why am I paying for a house phone and a cell phone? The house phone's not being used. So it's like, we shift things that we need to do based on circumstances. And thank you to Lori for acknowledging, the what's been happening, this major shift again of what's happening on the spirit of those little ones that never got to see the day that continue their life. Is their voices are emerging, their voices are being heard, and that's been very painful. And if you think, I have friends, close friends that live in Austria, and I thought that was so sweet of them. They phoned me to tell me, I want you to know that Austria remembers, and Austria has been doing all kinds of memorial type events to acknowledge what has happened. So they wanted to make sure that I was okay. And I said, well, yeah, I'm okay. But, you know, these are things that we carry every day. And we carry this trauma every day, and we carry this pain every day. We carry the hope that things will get better. You know, I think about what some of the comments you made about the bios. That's what I hear is a lot of hope. And for me, hope is important. I was saying, if I didn't believe in hope, I'd go wonkers, or I'd go even wonkier. Anyway, I'm almost 2 years into retirement, and I've struggled with institution, and trying to shift institutions has been very complicated, very difficult. And I've worked in over 36 years between University of Manitoba, University of Toronto, and I did a course at Brandon University. And then of course I was on the governing council at University College of the North. So I think of all the things that we've tried to convince people the value of who we are, convince people of the value of our histories and our, you know, things that we've, the fallout from residential schools, from racist policies. And, you know, over time, when you're uncovering all of that, we're learning more about ourselves. And I talk about increasingly developing a strong Indigenous focus, Indigenous grounded approach in terms of my own spirituality, to the point where I'm happy to acknowledge I am not Christian, and that upsets a lot of people. And I say, you know, but I can't, and I won't be. That's for somebody else, that's for another people, and that's their story that they imposed on us. So that's the way I see the story that's imposed and superimposed on our stories, to the point that our stories disappear. So in this time of pandemic, how do we maintain our spirituality? Well, things shift, you know, and think, you know, yeah, there's a time where with the safety of our world, that we go back and look at our medicines that we use, because there's a lot of our plant medicines that have a lot of properties of keeping us immune and strong and resilient. I still go collect plants, you know, and I have my sister who is a year older than I. We have this pact that every summer we will go and collect, as long as our bodies are allowing us. And then when our bodies don't allow us, but we can still be out there, well, we teach others to be the pullers and the weavers and the caressers of the plant, and, you know, depict them, because that way they learn, right? And that's what we have to do. So I've done that last year, and then you know, I'll do that again this year. So I always have a collection of my own medicines at home that I use for myself and my family. And I always make sure that I try to drink enough or use enough on a weekly basis. I won't say that I always use it every day, but when I remind myself I have to do it, I do it. So then I get cheat teas, because I make what I call my cocktails, really just a formula of 2 or 3 different plants. And then I'll make a really nice tea, then I'll just sip on that all day long. And that kind of gives me this sense of hope that I can still do things, because I live alone. So one of these people who lived alone can only have one person. And the odd time we would have one different person, but on the Kimuch level. And Kimuch, some of you may know what the word Kimuch means. Kimuch is doing things in the secret, under the radar, or you say, making it Korean English, Kimuchly. So it's like, otherwise we'd go nuts, because how do we continue to advance and nurture our traditions if physically we're not allowed to do that? Well, you can, you know, you can help people through phones, you can help people through videos, you can help people with smudge, you know. It's interesting how that works out with, I've been sitting on this council with the Ontario Arts and Design University College, and they've had an Indigenous focused program since about 2006-07. Excuse me, and I've been on that council since then. I keep saying, can you find somebody else? And they say, no, we need you. because you know about programs, and then because I don't sit quiet as well, you know, at meetings and stuff. And if something is missing, I'll bring it to their attention. And in the last few years, we've had elders that's part of the council. Now we finally got it right. Now we're going to have a few more elders, because what then happens is our elders are absent. They kind of default back to a Western way of doing meetings, minus the elder opening. So I step in and say, hold on, you know, just because an elder's not present, that doesn't mean we do these things. We're all, Lori mentioned it in a way, I guess, elders in training. So let's just do it. So a lot of times I've done it, you know, so I try to distribute the work to say, okay, I'll do it this time, next time, but we need to do this properly. So we finally did, and we finally got one place, because the last elder we lost was not comfortable. He basically left us, which is fine. We were okay with it, and we wished him well. But basically, he was not comfortable doing any opening or smudging virtually, because that was too much of a big shift for him. So I think we have to recognize that and acknowledge that. And that's not, he was not saying that that's not the way to do it, we shouldn't do it, but he was not comfortable with it. And so he left us, and that was fine. So, but the thing is, we need to find, you know, it's not so much even what's the comfort level, but what's appropriate to bring in with what the circumstances are speaking to us, right? So again, you know, I always say I really believe in being guided by our ancestors, and they'll, you know, this is just a physical reality, just another physical reality, the fact that we can see each other and hear each other, you know, physically with our physical eyes, but there's also that spiritual aspect that, you know, that we all are linked together, that we learn to use that part of ourselves as well. So, see, I'm being guided somehow, so I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyway, so how have I coped in this pandemic? Yeah, shifting, finding new ways to do things, not giving up, keep pushing forward, or expanding our circle and readjusting our circle and bringing more things into it, and not to take the risk, not be shy to say who we are, and to keep using our medicines and our smudge and our prayers, and to keep being open. And also there's, you know, there's a part of me that's fairly resistant and defiant. So I'm always in admiration of people who are openly defiant. I don't think I am, but I am very always resistant. And one of the things in my defiance is to declare I am not Christian, but I follow as much as possible my Cree spirituality, and the spirituality that was gifted to me by my amazing Anishinaabe friends and Mohawk friends and these are Dakota friends. So these are the different groups, and my friends from Peru, is that constant acknowledgement with the strong link to this, to the spirit, to the connection to you know, the spirit and our ancestors. And just because they're not physically here, that doesn't mean they're not here. And the spirit of those children are there telling us something, and they will keep telling us things. So I've been looking at some of Marie Sinclair's posts, things that he's been saying. So now he's saying, well, yeah, this is what I said. So, you know, we wonder at what point will people hear what we're saying? They hear us. I mean, at what point are they listen deeply to look at, okay, where's reconciliation? You know, because there's no reconciliation about the truth, right? And the truth is painful to hear. And the truth is painful to hear when it brings in trauma, when it brings in oppression, when it brings in, you know, blocking. People think that they know how to block in Facebook, okay? You block your friends, you delete your friends, but basically that's been happening to Indigenous people from the get-go with, you know, a contact. And then of course that shifted what I always say that, okay, contact was contact, but also when there was kind of this colonization effect, and that's what really impacted the assimilation. I had a friend, okay, we were not friends, I have to make it clear, but I had a colleague. I had a lot of challenges, you know, and we had a lot of mental tussles, intellectual tussles about what is Indigenous, what is not. And when I was working so hard to bring in Indigenous, at least an Indigenous course into my teaching at the Faculty of Education, and all the tense moments at meetings, and I would never not speak, so I would always speak up about them, that we need to do this. And this is way before Manitoba had finally decided, okay, we need one course that's mandatory. Anyway, we had a retreat. I think this one guy, he was so angry when I was talking about the need for Indigenous education. He was just contorting, his jugular veins were just sticking out when he was talking. He was just angry. Why do we need this? You know, it's like his way of saying, questioning Indigenous education. Why do we need, what's wrong with our educations? But he was so, his body language was so violent. Well, okay, we're sitting in a circle because I asked them, let's sit in a circle, right? And to see this, so I was sitting across from him, and I had to keep calling to our ancestral spirits, hold me in good space, help me. So anyway, and then other people, thank goodness, when they started to become smart about what we need to do, started to support and speak up against what he was saying about and supporting me. So I said, I want the last word. So in the circle, I had the last word. I spoke directly to him. In a very gentle but direct way, I told him, I need to speak to you about your body language. I said, as you were speaking the words, I'm not going to question your words. I said, yes, we need to share. We need to know what do we do to, so unless you share it, I'd rather you share it openly than not. I just said, but I'll tell you what, the body language you were using, your face was very red, your jugular veins were sticking out. I described her. He didn't know what to say. You're like totally diffused. But I'll tell you what, he avoided me for about 3 weeks. And I think the 4th week, he finally came up to me. He had to have the last word. So these were his words. He said, Laara, you know, I know it was tense, he said, but you know what? Don't some Indigenous people want to assimilate? I said, well, I said, okay, let me tell you something, John. I said, let me tell you something. Maybe when they're duped and they don't know that they've been assimilated, they've been duped, I might say yes. I said, but I'll tell you what, once they start coming to meetings and going to ceremonies, I said, no way they will want to be assimilated. I said, so I'm going to leave that as the last word to you. Have a good day. He retired shortly after that. He was so uncomfortable with the approach we were taking. So I think this is what happens to so many of us, is that we're there trying to make those changes with our minds, with our hearts, with our bodies, and with our speech. And then we get, you know, the little pockets of support, but we still get a lot of resistance and a lot of people speaking in defiance behind our backs, because I pick up on a lot of that, you know. So in this, some way, this pandemic has allowed us to speak without getting shut down fast, just because of the way the setup has to be, right? So like normally in a meeting, somebody would shut me up fast or shut any of us up fast with a backup comment or something. But this creates that kind of space. So I think for me, I have not allowed the pandemic to hold me back in things I think need to happen. And I've just shifted new ways and encouraged people to do new ways of doing. Because I mean, to make sure that we're still following Indigenous protocol and practices as much as we can, and not to have any excuses about it. So I'll just start off with that, and then sorry if I rambled too much, but anyway, it's good to see everybody. And I know there's a lot of ears that are hearing us, and welcome everybody. Igosani for now.
Thank you so much, Laara. Very, very wise words. I was writing stuff down, but you were talking a little fast, so we'll talk later.
That's,
My ears.
I'm finding that's also the kind of the thing about virtual and how much time do I have? So I don't normally talk.
That's okay. No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm assuming others were taking notes for the breakouts to ask questions. I'm almost positive of that. I'm just going to go in just the way I see you on my screen. If you don't mind, I'd like to call upon Annetta Armstrong. If you're ready, Annetta.
Guess I have to unmute first.
Yeah. Yes.
We really are probably all pros at this by now, and that mute button is still getting us every once in a while. So good afternoon. My name is Annetta. My spirit and name is Standing Alone. I'm from the Buffalo Clan. My home community is Mississippiwistic, Grand Rapids, otherwise known as Grand Rapids. I really want to thank you for inviting me and for the opening remarks to this event. I also want to thank Kendell for inviting me to this panel. And it's good to see Dr. Fitznor. And then of course, Diane, I just have to say the excellent job that Mawi's done in the community with the vaccine clinic as well as the testing sites. I have heard nothing but great things, and I just can't believe how well your team has come together and helped the community tremendously. So just to give you a little bit of background of what Indigenous Women's Healing Center is, we're formerly the Native Women's Transition Center. We had a name change in 2017, and we have 3 residential sites. So we have one residential and all the residential sites have different focuses. What COVID has done, it's so hard to talk about COVID. But I think that what we take is that the residents that come and live with us at any of our sites are immediately part of our family. And so what I appreciate the most about this place, and I've been in and out of here for over 20 years now, is that we give the residents opportunity to learn not only who they are and get that foundation of who they are, but also like where they come from, and giving them the opportunity to learn about their spirit and like things like sometimes how good it is to sing, how good it is to drum, and how good it is to smudge and pray, and how much it impacts them. There's a lot of residents that come through here that have never had that opportunity, or maybe have heard about it here and there. And so we really try to, and have been trying, and we continue to try harder and harder to bring the Indigenous culture and the Indigenous, traditional values into everything that we do here, including cooking. And everything's kind of changed since COVID a little bit. So, but we're resilient people. We've had to do a lot of changes, particularly devastating is, especially in the beginning, was the visits with the baby stopped. And it became really hard for our women. We had a resident that was living here at the first lockdown who couldn't visit her brand new baby twins. And it was absolutely devastating. So we quickly came together as a team and tried to figure out like, what the heck can we do? First of all, we have to keep our residents safe. So we did do some significant community access restrictions, which means they were all kind of grounded to the house because we didn't want everybody going out. And then support them and make sure that they have a good plan of activities and programs and counseling and anything that is going to help their mental health. So if I could say that there's something good that came out of this COVID, is that we are really coming together as a team of staff and residents to work towards our mental health and that spirit and that feeling that we're all getting with COVID. Like, COVID exhaustion is a real thing. And so, you know, we were coming together as a group. So the obvious changes, and I just have these, I just got this morning. It's like, these are the COVID rules of everything. Like, it was kind of devastating to me because in a way, because you know, I used to value the fact that if the staff were going to join us for lunch with the residents, that we would eat together. And it was like feasting. And to me, that was one of the traditional values that I thought, like, this is important. So I always appreciated seeing, sometimes joining my residents for lunch or something. I always enjoyed seeing the staff in there joining the residents for lunch, because it's such an important ceremony to share that time together and feasting. And then, of course, we build stronger relationships with each other, and COVID totally changed that. So, like, we had to change everything from how we're eating to how we're visiting. Of course, all the PPE, we've got a lot of PPE, and then the cleaning. Not only was the visits to the kids one of the biggest impacts, the other was just even visiting their families. And so the public health orders have been very frustrating for me, because every time you call, there's someone different telling you something different. And it's been very frustrating. As a matter of fact, just in this past month, 2 of the sites have had to go under isolation because I had some staff that were positive. And the public health told us for one site something different than for the other site, which I found to be really frustrating. But we, you know, are resilient people, and we adjust, and we do what we do to make it work. And some of the things that we've done during those periods of isolation is we have a little medicine cart. So when everyone's kind of in their space, our cultural advisor or our elder will walk around and then, like, smudge the hallway and smudge into the rooms and make teas. So we've been doing cedar teas and different kind of medicines to make sure that they're still connected. We've also been trying to make sure that there's drumming regularly, so that we can feel that heartbeat even if we're in isolation. And so the residents don't feel so isolated and secluded. It's very good for the staff as well, I have to admit. I'm saying too much. The hardest part, I think, for the staff over here with this pandemic is that we can't touch our babies now. So I think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but we used to be we used to be able to cuddle our babies and help the moms and do a lot more touching, and we haven't just yet. So now we're going through vaccination periods, and I think that that's going to be the light at the end of the tunnel for us, where we can go back to the new normal. I also have to say that our sweat lodge, in the beginning of the pandemic, because we were bubbled, we were still having sweats right until this last lockdown, where they said no visitors, no outside, nothing, no fires, no eating candy. so since we shut down our sweat lodge, we've been stepping up on all of the ceremonies that we can do. And so in the case of some of the residents that were isolating, we would allow them a time where they could go outside and just step on the land and connect with the earth and get that air, that fresh air. And they just appreciate it like so much. I can't even tell you how happy that they are just to have that opportunity to be so thankful. I've appreciated that. Almost all my residents are now vaccinated, if not double vaccinated. So I'm looking forward to the new normal. And like I said, we are resilient people, and we've just tried to make the best of this and keep calm in the panic. The message that I've been giving is if we get sick or if our residents get sick with COVID, all we can do is take care of them the same way we would with our kids at home and love them.
Thank you. Wow.
Wow, thank you so much. I love that feasting together. I always every time I go to a community, you know, and I go back, they go, "Oh, you came back," and I'll say, "Because you fed me." But it's wonderful to establish that relationship through, you know, acknowledging some traditional values. Wow, that's great. You know, I like that. I must have missed the memo about eating candy too, because pandemic, I haven't stopped eating candy. It's part of my issues here. But yeah, and medicines are so important to us. Like Larry, you had mentioned about the medicines, and during the pandemic, one of the things I did instantly was start my cedar pot on the cleaning out my house, you know, the air. So it's so important. And yeah, medicines are important. And when you said make tea, I thought you said Métis, and I just perked up. But thank you so much, Annetta. It's so wonderful to hear from you, and yeah, the name change and everything, so everybody knows who you are and all that. So cheers, much appreciated. By the way, what my next, I'm going to ask Diane Redsky, and honest to goodness, I don't believe in ladies first crap. It's just that that's where it stands. She's in my, I mean, stuff, ladies first stuff. Sorry, but oh, I'm getting myself in trouble. I would like to go to Diane Redsky next. So Kendell, you'll wrap us all up if you don't mind, but in a good way, I hope. But Diane Redsky from Mawi, Itata, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Leona. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm not used to these headphones, so I gotta take one out. Bonjour, Shuiganina Dishnakaz, Adik Dodam. My spirit name is Love Eagle from the Caribou clan, and I acknowledge the traditional territory that I have the privilege of living and working on, and that is Treaty 1 territory, homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as acknowledge the traditional territory of my ancestors, which is Treaty 3 territory, and honor the water that comes to the city of Winnipeg from my community, Shoal Lake First Nation 40. So thank you for the invitation, Kendell, to be here. We have had, the Mawi Center has had a relationship with the IPAC group for a number of years, because we see this as a really important opportunity to build bridges. And oh, I'm just gonna note, you're seeing my children and grandchildren walk around behind me. They called in sick from work and school today, so you are not seeing them at all. So nobody report them, but they should be at work at school. We're all sick today. So so this relationship is really important, and really happy for the opportunity to be here to talk about the truth and reconciliation. And one of the things that early on when the TRC report came out, and there were everybody, it was getting a lot of attention. The Mawi Center, we were getting calls after calls after calls of from faith-based groups and other organizations wanting to reach out and reconcile. And the issue around that is that once you started having the conversation and finding out more and more about what is it they mean and what are their intentions, and where can we go from here, for 99% of the time it was always on their terms, their way, the way that they want it, and we're expected to fit in, and that's that. So we had really started to push back against that, because the fact that oftentimes you're seeing everywhere that our elders have said they've even taken truth out of Truth and Reconciliation. Like, we want to everybody just wants to get to that reconciliation part,
Right.
and but we can't achieve reconciliation until we actually have a full opportunity to talk about the truth.
Yeah.
And this is why opportunities like this are so incredibly important. And our elders have also said, if you're working on Truth and Reconciliation and it's easy, then you're doing it wrong. It is a process that takes a long time. We don't have to rush. There's no reason for anybody to have to rush. The process and the journey is the most important thing, not the destination. And so those are some of the things that I have learned, not only running an organization that is an Indigenous-led organization and people from the outside wanting to come in, but also what's really important to us is to make sure that we are ensuring that and creating those opportunities for the truth to be told. So that has been another reason why the IPAC group has been really important to the work. And I want to say thank you to all of you that are working within those systems, who are Indigenous people, who work. You're part of the membership. You work throughout the systems that must be a really difficult job, because you're working from the inside, trying to make change. And I can't even imagine how incredibly hard that would be as an Indigenous person. At least, for me, the way I see it, I'm out in the community, and we can create allies. We're around, a bunch of other Indigenous people, and it's just so easy to go to work every day. But if you're isolated and you're the only Indigenous person in a department or in your office or whatnot, then I just can't imagine how incredibly hard that is. So I want to acknowledge that here today, because and I want to thank you for working on the inside. You have way more strength, patience, and commitment to doing system reform just by the work that you do. So thank you, all of you that are working from the inside to change things, to make things better for our community. So some of the, when COVID hit our community, immediately this magnified the food and income insecurity for the families at the Wichita Center are working with, mainly downtown Elmwood and in the North End. And we had to immediately go down into lockdown, where we had to close our public sites. So the Wichita Center, to give you a sense, we have 3 locations that are feeding about 150 people per day, 6 days a week, in each of those locations. And so our attention immediately went into, oh my gosh, how are we going to get food to people? Because that is, you can't wait a day or a week, to figure things out. We need to act now and get food into the cupboards of people, food onto the table within our families. And so we immediately jumped into making food packages. Very next day, set it up, and we had our list of families that we're working with that we know rely on us every single day for their food, as well as looking at what we can do about their income insecurity. And I want to talk a little bit about why that is, and this relates to the really important topic about truth and reconciliation, and where we need to get to is changing those systems. So our experience working within the systems is that there's always a winner and there's always a loser. And so the systems are actually set up so there is, so that a certain segment of the population will only be able to go so far, if far at all. And so the systems are designed to be that way because they're rooted in patriarchy, they're rooted in rule-based, and that is the complete opposite, certainly, of Indigenous organizations like many that are here today that are value-based and strength-based. So right away, we don't really fit in. And a story I tell about why systems are flawed is I was playing tic-tac-toe with my granddaughter one day. And so, it's a pretty fair game. Everybody gets a turn and it's all about strategy, right? So but she wanted to change the rules of the game. She said, where I get to go twice and you get to go once. Well, she has just changed the rules of the game so that she has just increased her chances to win and predict the outcome. So the systems are very similar to that the system is set up so that it predicts the outcome, just like my granddaughter predicting the outcome of tic-tac-toe. So in order for us to change the systems, we need to start, and that's what decolonizing systems means, is that we need to start unpacking these systems and rebuilding them so that there's equality, so that it's not predicting an outcome where Indigenous people are set up to fail every single time. And that goes to everything, the healthcare system, the CFS system, the justice system, all of that. It's not a surprise that most of our people are those misery numbers where there's an industry of our people, incarcerated, high rates of numbers of kids in care, etc., is because that was the predicted outcome.
Yeah.
So we need to, all of the work around truth and reconciliation, a big part of that, and that includes what we had said in the MMIW 2S Plus National Action Plan and the implementation recently, is that we need a total transformation of systems so that the prediction, so that they're not set up so Indigenous people continue to fail and have these outcomes, these poor outcomes that support an industry. And so when we're talking about food and income insecurity within families, it's no surprise that was, our immediate reaction was, oh my gosh, how are we going to get food to people? And so we had, with the Wichita Center, we moved to lunch bags to big hampers, and now the boxes are getting bigger and bigger because people need to eat, for one, and the organizations that they were relying on for their food, many of them also had no choice but to go in lockdown and close their public sites. So we have delivered since last March over 200,000 hampers to families in the city of Winnipeg, and that is, not only is that a lot of work, but it also, I hope, raises that red flag about just how many people don't have access to food. And it's not a budget issue. If you don't have enough money, you can't manage what you don't have. And so it is a money issue. People do not have enough money to be able to buy their basic needs. And so that is also relates to the income insecurity. And I agree with Annetta that the thing that impacted us the most really is those relationships. We miss our community. Like, we miss seeing them. We miss them coming around, sitting at kitchen tables and learning about what's going on with their families and their ideas, dreams, aspirations. And there is, I think certainly for me, totally took that for granted. And then when it was gone, it was just it hurts your heart that you're not able to be around people. And so that has, I think, the biggest impact as an organization is not being able to see people and being so worried about their food security, their income security. We know that people have now been isolated within their homes, that you know, like anybody else, are experiencing higher rates of violence within homes. And so trying to get supports into places. And there is, you know, a few things that I think the systems also learned around taking other things for granted. They said, oh, we'll just, you know, do virtual programming. Well, that means that's assuming everybody has a phone or a tablet and access to internet to be able to do that. And so there is, so we've had to adapt with that as well into making sure that we are reaching out to people and problem solving around, we've had to buy tablets, we've had to buy those data sticks. We've had to be really creative and innovative to move to virtual programming. And so, so that has been a big challenge. And of course, as well, we offer a number of services around and work in partnership with child welfare. And so visits were cut off. So the families that were working on reunifying and had some hope that they were going to get their kids back now can't see their kids, and the plan is off. So that was really another impact to the community and to families when they couldn't see their kids. That all being said, this was a real eye opener as a community-based organization. There are, and what I've concluded is that there are a group of people who are natural helpers that when there's an emergency, they run to the fire. And then there's another group of people who in an emergency, like take off and you don't even know where they are. So that pretty much describes, you know, our experience of where did everybody go when you need them. And so that was, you know, highlighted also the need to be able to have these conversations post-COVID around who was there and who should have been there and wasn't there, and who we needed to be there and they weren't there. And so those are, I think, really important conversations to have following everything. So some of the things that we've been doing to take care of people is, of course, we advocated hard to get a vaccination and a COVID testing center. And we're doing that based on strength-based and value-based ways. And so we are making sure our elders are taken care of. None of them ever wait in line. They're like brought right in. We're going to them also to make sure we are promoting vaccinations and COVID testing. We have, so the experience within going to a vaccination center is more strength-based and rooted in relationships. So it's the opposite really of the super sites, where it's all about how many vaccinations can you do in an hour versus ensuring that you're taking care of people all along the way. Certainly with Indigenous people who have not the best, and we all have experiences of having horrible experiences within the healthcare system. So now we're supposed to trust the healthcare system to, you know, to get a vaccination. And so there was, you know, a lot of hesitancy that we had to overcome as an organization. And so and it hasn't been easy working with health, both with the COVID testing and the vaccination center. However, there will be lessons learned out of this, and we will, you know, if this ever happens again, we will be wiser and better, and we're prepared, not only as an organization and a community, but I think as systems will be more prepared in the future. So we have been reaching out, and very similar to Annetta's experiences, what all of those ceremonies and ways in which that have kept us strong as Indigenous people, we continue to rely on those. So going back to the land, going to the sacred fire, drumming, just how many ceremonies, what ceremonies can we do safely so we're not creating harm for our community and creating risk. And so there is, we have rooted ourselves within those ceremonies and offered them as much as we can, and sometimes right to people, because that is important. So just to wrap things up on my end is that what is that new normal as we look at post-COVID? And that new normal can't be the same, going back to the same normal. And so that is an area that Wichita Center and many others have been advocating around. Let's now sit down and get prepared to reopen, and what are some things that COVID has changed that we want to bring forward, and what are things that we need to address within systems so that we're not just going back to the same old where there's the inequality and the where we've normalized poverty and where we've normalized violence against everybody. And so how can we work together to redefine what that new normal is, and so we don't go back to those ways of which the systems continue to operate, so that the outcome is predicted. And so there's a lot of hope that I have with the urban Indigenous community in Winnipeg and what that will look like in post-COVID, because I know that we're already organized and we're already working on things. And we already know that Indigenous-led services and Indigenous-led resources are going to be vital in the work of rebuilding and identifying what that new normal is going to be. And so we're going to need lots of partners, and we're going to need lots of allies in order to do that. And so I see this as an opportunity to build bridges and predict a better outcome at the end of the day.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Kachimegwech, Diane, thank you. Are you taking names down from the screen? You want partners? You're getting names. Oh, thank you so
Did the
much.
screenshot already.
Yeah, yeah, and there's about 3 pages, so you got to scroll. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, what is our new normal? Go figure. It's amazing. And, I was just wondering, I'm a big thing of food security and all that. And one of the things I know is we don't have equality or equity in food security when it comes to Indigenous peoples, and that's just something I'm very familiar with. So thank you very much again, Diane, Kachimegwech, and Kendell. I know we've left you for the last, and I know it seems like we're a little running behind, but as far as I'm concerned, we are right on schedule. So the time may tell us differently, but I'm saying we're right on schedule. So you're good to go, Kendell. And again, thanks, Diane. And here's Kendell Joyner, everyone. Cheers.
You might regret not giving me a time. No, just kidding. But good afternoon. My name is Kendell Joyner. My Cheyenne name is Mistea Hedawa, which means ghost bowl, transferred into English. But, I just definitely wanted to acknowledge and, thank IPAC for putting this event on. Everyone who's worked on it behind the scenes. Wanted to definitely thank Lori Thompson for giving the opening remarks, land acknowledgement, and the prayer. Lori works with me a lot, so she's a great teacher, and she works with a Native clan, so I definitely rely on her a lot, especially now. And then also, just Laara, Diane, and Annetta for taking the time. With IPAC, a lot of the times, the only reason I know is because I'm super involved in IPAC, but a lot of the base and everyone kind of listening is the vast majority are people who do work in the provincial government, right? So it's just one, reaching out and saying thank you for making the time to listen, because that's really what a lot of us as Indigenous organizations really crave, is someone to listen to us and work with us to change these systems that are so slanted against a lot of what we do. It's I can definitely say I've only been in my position since August, which isn't a long time, but an uphill battle since August on a lot of things makes you pretty tired on a lot of things. But kind of a little bit about Native Clan. We operate kind of almost a similar setup to Annetta in terms of our halfway house, our reintegration facility on McGregor houses. Our clients are men 24/7. They live here. And what COVID has really done is broken us down and made us get back to the basics really quick as people, as an organization, and as family, to really see what we value as humans. So it's kind of like, you know, when all the fluff is gone, all the policies, all the, you know, kind of checkbox programming, this and that, how do you get through this? Because we've had to adapt everything from how you say hello to each other, literally with masks, culture, the way that we operate, everything has had to be redefined. And just having that redefinition as Indigenous organizations and Indigenous people is hard to do when you're already kind of in this halfway limbo of trying to work so hard to change systems to make things balanced. And then now all of a sudden you have this little slight slant uphill battle that now you're going through. And then, you know, just on the mental health side personally, especially for anyone, floor staff, executives, clients, anyone, the mental health kind of aspect of COVID has just made it that much harder, right? So in terms of, you know, things that Native Clan, that our organization has had to really adapt on and kind of, you know, shift and change a little bit throughout this entire time. The top thing is definitely how we approach ceremony or have access to ceremony. Native Clan at our location here, we have 2 sweat lodges, a roundhouse, a medicine house, and we actually have 2 elders on staff. So then we haven't had to approach this way of doing business and this way of living ever. So you don't have a blueprint, at least for relative times, like close to, you know, especially in my lifetime being a baby, we don't necessarily have a blueprint to kind of follow. So it's been really a lot of relying on each other. You know, as Indigenous organizations, worked a lot with Annetta, a lot with Diane. You know, we've really kind of come together for each other for support throughout this entire thing. You know, hopefully the light's at the end of the tunnel-ish now, but, you know, as Diane said, post-COVID, the norm can't be the norm. You know, we've already adapted quite a lot of things to kind of quite a lot of situations throughout this last year and a half. You know, every time a new wave of health orders comes through, now it's how do we adapt our entire life to this now? And then you kind of take a step back, go to, you know, maybe somewhere that you were 6 months ago, and then there's an entirely new level of things, right? So, you know, on our end, we've gone through the entire bubbling together as a facility, and then that kind of fell apart when all of a sudden, you know, with restrictions, everyone misses their family. And we're all people, everyone, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're involved in the justice system, anything, we're all humans, right? So, you know, the turtling up and bubbling kind of fell apart when everyone really missed families. So then managing a facility of, you know, say 30 to 35 residents, 20 staff, you know, everyone coming in and out, it's been hard. It would have been hard, you know, to begin with, but then kind of, you know, with the financial constraints, you know, the resources that we have access to on kind of our end of the house, it's made things a little tough. But with that kind of toughness and with our resiliency and perseverance, we now see new ways to do things. And now we see what works, what doesn't work type thing. So there has been, you know, kind of a, believe it or not, a couple good things to come out of COVID, as much as good things can come out of a pandemic. Specifically, like for my end on a personal level, when I started this position, all the way up until now, it's almost been an extended winter of planning, because you really can't, you can't get out to the community. You can't see everyone, you know, who just lives across the street and things like that as a community-based organization. So it's kind of been, you know, with our way of life and way of planning, it's very cyclical, like, you know, seasonal. There's spring, summer, fall, and winter. And this winter and planning on my end has been very long. So hopefully a lot of these plans come through, because, you know, otherwise it's just been a long winter for nothing. But kind of on a personal kind of way of dealing with, you know, the entire aspect of reconciliation coupled with COVID, coupled with, you know, my home community and tribe is across the border. So even with having the border closed this entire time, puts a real kind of halt on a lot of things, you know, everything from Sundance to, you know, grieving lost relatives, weddings, births, everything that everyone else goes through, right? But it's definitely been a bit different, you know, yeah. So, you know, those are just kind of my words. Didn't really go off of a whole ton of a script, but I just thought that I would kind of leave with those thoughts. And, you know, really a huge portion of my time is based around working with, we'll say, you know, Western institutions to kind of now you adapt policy kind of based off of what works, which absolutely makes sense. I actually worked for the provincial government right before coming here, so it's kind of you know, having that in the back of your mind, and you know, with my education and public admin, kind of having that in the back. It's been a challenge and also a blessing to kind of work with these institutions that we work with to change policy. And, you know, being frontline workers, like with government, be it provincial, federal, local, you know, one big thing that I definitely kind of ask is, you know, policies are there, but policies can change. Is the big thing, right? Policies, you know, at least on my end, when we work with, you know, some of our partners, it's kind of like, okay, like I see, you know, I know that you have this policy and like, you know, we follow along with this and everything. Here's like a recommendation on how to change that. And here's the data for why it's better that we change it, to kind of do things a little more human-based, you know, strength-based kind of thing, a little more culturally centered. So that's really, I think, what we're kind of on a giant cusp right now of post-COVID. All of a sudden now it's going to be these ideas that Indigenous organizations and these troubleshootings that we've come across and had is going to really start to pile up. And, you know, I know that there's going to be a lot of Indigenous organizations approaching government bodies with change. And that's really kind of the, you know, the huge takeaway is, you know, policy is great, policy is good, policy can change, right? And the way that we conduct business can change. So kind of some afternoon thoughts from myself, but I'll go ahead and close it out there in the ass. Thank you all for listening.
Oh, Kendell, thank you so much. That was good. I realize now that you're the guy that recruited all the panelists. Like, that's so exciting. I'm glad we left you till the end to wrap us all up. nice little bow.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Exactly. And it sure is nice to hear you say that we really do need to rely on each other in all ways. So that's really good. Thank you so much to all the panelists. I believe now what we're going to do is get ready to go into a breakout room. And I believe our leader, Emmett, of the chair of IPAC, will be setting up the breakout rooms. I think I should see or hear from him soon.
Yes, I am just assigning
is.
people now. So if you just bear with me for a minute or two, I will send people into breakout rooms right away.
Can I go
Okay.
into Diane's breakout room?
Yeah.